Welcome back to the Dream World, your favorite interdimensional podcast centered around sleep, dreams, lucidity, and consciousness. I love talking to honornauts and dreamers of all experience levels, scientists, healers, skeptics even, all walks of life. I just want to live in a world where people feel comfortable talking about dreams, where science takes this as a valid area of research, and where people see it as something important worth paying attention to. We spend a third of our lives asleep in this other dimension called the dream world, so we might as well make the best of it. For this episode, please welcome my guest Elaine, who is a lifelong lucid dreamer. So I'll let her take it from here.
My name's Elaine. I'm 63, so it's been a long journey with dreaming. Pretty much knew I was dreaming as a toddler, and it was very long dreams. It was like I would go to sleep and I'd wake up and be watching a movie, and I would wake up and just started telling my brothers or sisters or my mom, especially my mom, I'm like, oh my God, you won't believe what happened in my dream, and da-da-da-da-da. And she said I would just go on, and just want to tell her this big fantastical story that I just woke up from, and nobody in my family even remembered their dreams. So it became something that I just really stopped talking about at a very young age because nobody else could even fathom what my life was like in my dreams. I knew I was dreaming. I did not have control. I don't think a lot of my dreams were nightmares as a child. I'd probably say 50% of them were nightmares. And I knew I could wake up from the nightmare if it got to a point where it got too scary for me. So I would be like, okay, this is a dream, wake up. It wasn't until I just turned 17, I was in college, that a group of people that were working together on somebody's doctorate degree came to my college at New College in Sarasota, Florida, and chose, I think it was either 10 or 12 people out of the 600 students there to do what they called biofeedback on. There was no term. This was back in 1977, so lucid dreaming really was not a common term at all. So they would stick on little electrodes measuring our brain waves, teaching us how to go into meditation. I still remember that very clearly. I can do that real easily. It's by relaxing literally almost one muscle at a time, going through your whole body. And they measured your brainwaves going from I don't remember the exact order, alpha, beta, delta. We would do this every day or every other day, laying in a hammock next to the Ringling School of Art grounds, which were absolutely beautiful. And at the same time, we would all keep a dream journal. That was difficult for me because my dreams were just so extensive that I did not have time while I was in college to write, a 50-page paper on my dream every day. So I would just write down little notes, just so I could remember, and then I would just tell them about it later. So once we established learning the meditation, dream recall I've already established throughout my life, they told us, okay, now you're going to wake up in your dream. I'm like, that sounds like something I could do. So they taught us to look at our hand as we were falling asleep. And they would say, when you dream, you look out like a projector. You never look down at your body. I said, that's interesting. I never noticed that, but I started noticing that was true. But they said, just stare at your hand when you're sleeping. When you are aware that you are dreaming, bring your hand up and look at it. And I attempted that. This study, I'm not sure how long the study went on. I think it was probably about 2 months. And I did that. I brought my hand up while I was dreaming. And I don't think I was ever so frightened in my life. It was more horrifying than any nightmare that I ever had. And I woke up immediately, swore I would never do it again. And I told the group about it, and they were amazed, first of all, that I did it so quickly. And then they were, saying, well, push through it, just keep trying. And I think I just stopped. I'm like, no, I don't really want that feeling again. And interestingly enough, at the same time, I was taking a quantum physics course for the sociology student, which was a new class. And I found that incredibly interesting. As a social psychology major, I wanted to delve deeper into physics at that point in my life because I learned about quantum physics in this class, but I didn't. Going forward, I kind of tried to put it out of my mind. I did not want to go deeper into my dreams. I was then turning, in my 20s, out of school. It was the 80s. You can imagine, if you can't imagine, it was kind of wild back then. It wasn't until I was in my 20s when I would read novels going to sleep all the time. And I would have 2 to 3 at my bedside, and I would just grab one, pick it up where I left off from the night before, a couple nights before, and just read until I fell asleep. I started noticing that every time I picked up a book when I was going to sleep, it wasn't making sense because my memory was like 3 or 4 chapters ahead of where I bookmarked the book. So I would read through. I'm like, well, this isn't how it goes. Like, I remember this going differently in this book. So I started monitoring that. And I was basically writing the book, continuing the book in my dream almost every night. So that got very confusing because it made me really not want to read novels anymore. And then in my 20s was when I really started lucid dreaming. And I mean, I could always fly in my dreams ever since I was a child, different degrees. But then in my 20s, I really started letting my brain go into this area that I was kind of trying to stop it from. And then I just started lucid dreaming almost every night. I'll stop and let you ask me questions because I could go on about this. It's been decades that this has been happening to me.
When you saw your hand and when you got scared when you were in college, can you describe that to me? What was so scary about it that made you want to kind of take a step back from dreaming?
I've really thought about this because it's something that baffled me. It was after, so many years of remembering my dreams, knowing I'm dreaming, to actually see a part of my body in knowing I'm dreaming. I think it was just because doesn't happen. And it just, I don't know, it was so weird. Flying was no problem.
So it was like the knowing that you're in a dream and seeing your hand, like you kind of just freaked out, even though you had already had some lucid dreams before without knowing what it was.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember, flying all the time in my dreams, knowing that, okay, I must be dreaming because I understand I can't fly. And I would mainly leap very high. If I was having a nightmare where I was falling off of a building or something, I knew I could slow it down and be okay. I would either wake up before I hit the ground, or I eventually learned, okay, slow down, slow down, slow down, and I would land and I would be fine. And so I knew I was dreaming because obviously there's gravity. I don't know, it's hard to explain. Without anybody to talk to about this as a young person, you kind of have to figure it out by yourself. And that's difficult. Nowadays, I mean, we have the internet, books and, classes and how-tos. And just back then, it was kind of throw me into the wolves and let me figure it out.
I can imagine, without having any idea what it is, that's definitely freaky for a lot of people. But I'm glad you pushed through and now you're kind of regaining that interest for it.
I got married when I was 30, and he was my childhood sweetheart. We had not seen each other for about 12 years. So I was married to him for 12 years. And that was the first time I actually had somebody where I was, oh my God, guess what I dreamt about? When I first woke up, there was somebody there. I'm like, oh, guess what I dreamt about last night? Loving me, he was like, okay, I'll deal with this craziness. He didn't remember his dreams, but he found it very fascinating. He was like, my God, does your brain just ever stop? I'm like, it doesn't feel like it. But he would listen to my dreams, and actually we would have arguments sometimes about what happened. I'll be like, don't you remember our conversation from the other day when we talked about this, this, and this? And he's like, no, Elaine, that did not happen. And I would explain to him what clothes he was wearing, what the weather was like, the exact conversation. I mean, so detailed. And he just would be like, no, it was one of your dreams. And I don't, still to this day, we're friends. I still don't know if he was messing with me or not. We would have one of those arguments probably every 6 months where he just says, no, that did not happen. I actually did not keep a dream journal until about a year ago. About a year ago, I got to the point where I just want to sleep without dreaming or without remembering my dreams. I just want to sleep. So I started listening to brown noise on my iPhone. And after going through different colors, brown noise was the one that all of a sudden I was like, oh, I would wake up. I would be like, wow, it's morning. I slept. I don't remember anything. This is wonderful. And I did that for probably 2 months. And I started missing the lucidity. It was the strangest thing. So I'm like, okay, well, I would go back to sleep, turn the brown noise off, go back to sleep. And then I would be fully lucid almost every single morning. And being semi-retired, I didn't have to get up, at a certain time to go to work. So I would just lay there and go, okay, go back to sleep. And I came back full force.
So what percentage of dreams would you say that you are lucid throughout your life? Is it most of your dreams? All of them? Some of them? Like, do you ever have non-lucid dreams?
I'm sure I do. Like just a normal dream. And I wake up and I go, oh, isn't that a nice dream? Like that type of thing.
Yeah, like lucid being just that you're aware of the dream while it's happening. You're like, oh, I'm in a dream right now. And then a non-lucid dream would be like, oh, you think it's waking life and you think that this is actually happening in real life. And it's not until you wake up that you're like, oh, that was a dream. You get what I'm saying?
I'd say 90% are lucid.
Oh, wow. That's really a high frequency compared to most people. That's great. Like, I mean, you're very natural at it. So I could see how that would be exhausting. I mean, you heard my other episode where I was talking to somebody who's considered an omni, meaning they're lucid in every dream ever. They don't even know what a non-lucid dream is, which is mind blowing to me.
Yeah. The point I was thinking is if I don't remember my dream, maybe I did have a dream. I just don't remember it. And maybe it wasn't lucid. But if I don't remember it, how would I know?
That's true. I mean, I've had lucid dreams where I've forgotten them too, even if you are lucid. The dream recall is one skill. Lucid dreaming is a separate skill. And then dream control is a separate skill. So they're all three things that have different levels.
Oh, dream control is the most amazing thing in the world. I'll never forget learning to stop in a dream. It's like, just stop time and look around and explore. And I've done it many, many times since then. But the first time I did it, I'll never forget. And I would just float. I was in a room and I would just float around and not a particle would move. And I'd be able to examine every single detail about the dream. And it was just fascinating. I don't know if people actually talk about it that much, but stopping time in a dream.
I rewind and fast forward all the time.
Okay.
So I do play with time a little bit. Sometimes I'll like split my dream up into like 2 dreams simultaneously, which is so hard to describe, but I'll literally be dreaming 2 dreams at the same time. I'm going to try to pause it one of these days. Now that you said that, it sounds like a fun thing to try.
It is. I've had sleep paralysis, not since my 20s. That was probably had 3 or 4 of those. Those were horrible.
Yeah, I've had a lot of those too until I got used to it. I got so used to it because I had them so often that I was like not even scared anymore. I would just turn it into a lucid dream.
Oh, wow. I just stopped it. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, what's next on the agenda? Because I don't want to do this one anymore.
Yeah.
But waking up from one dream to another dream waking up within a dream, realizing you're dreaming, and then waking up again. I don't know what they call that. Like waking up twice within one dream until you finally wake up and go, oh, those are horrifying.
I call them nested dream sequences. And sometimes they're not even nightmares for me, but I'll go to sleep in a dream and wake up again in another dream, sometimes not lucid anymore. Or the dream will like change into different scenes in a way where it just feels like so many dreams within one.
I had one the other week. I can't remember what I was dreaming about, but there was a problem in the dream. And I'm looking at it, analyzing it, and going, there's something wrong with this dream. I can't remember exactly what it was. And then I changed it. And it was 100 years earlier on Earth. So I changed the time from that current reality time to 100 years ago. And I was like, oh, okay, problem solved. And I woke up. I'm like, oh, that was cool. Yeah, I didn't change the problem. I just changed the time of the scene. And then the problem wasn't there anymore. I thought that was interesting.
So other than manipulating time, what other kinds of things you do while lucid? I know you said you like to fly. Is there any other like fun things that you like to try when you're dreaming?
Flying is probably my favorite thing. I lived on an island for 30 years, and my main form of transportation was a scooter, like a moped. And it's been 4 years since I've ridden my scooter. And the other day, I'm like, oh, I really miss that. Really, really miss my scooter. And that night I fell asleep, and instead of riding my scooter, I was flying on my scooter. This is in Key West, which I really miss tremendously. And so this is Old Town Key West, and I'm flying on my scooter around Old Town. And I'm like, this is even better than flying. I would come up to like a wall that we go down, which is really no such thing there. And I'm like, I'd stop, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to get the scooter down this steep, like a 90-degree angle without crashing? I'm like, well, I'm flying. I'm like, just fly. I'm like, so I never really touched the ground. I just kind of like, I created my steps like in front of me so the scooter could not touch them, but have the distance, but not as high of a distance off the ground. So I was kind of like going down bumps on my scooter in the air. And then I would go back up over the buildings. And oh, that was heavenly. I did have a nightmare once. I was on an airplane and it was crashing. And I was with my stepsister, who I haven't seen in decades. And we just looked at each other and we both said, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, because we knew the plane was crashing. And then I just stopped and I went, wait, hold on. And I just took control of the plane and just with like my will flew the plane up back into the right altitude, and everybody was fine. It was stuff like that. Like,
at what moment did you notice it was a dream in that dream, or did you know right away the whole time?
I didn't know. It was very scary. It wasn't until we said I love you several times that it just clicked in my head. I'm like, oh, wait, this is a dream. The plane's not going to crash. I can fly the plane.
Nice.
Or, use my energy to fly the plane. That takes a lot of energy. I mean, physically, it feels like, I don't know how, it's like lifting a
like
plane.
Mental work.
Yes, it's very difficult. I flew with a horse on my back one time, and I was saving the horse, and it was a big horse, and I'm 5'1", and I just looked behind it and I said, you have to help me. I can't get you out of this predicament by myself because you're so big. Just please give me a little bit of your energy. And then boom, we were flying up the side of a building. I was like, God, thank you. You're heavy.
That's creative dream control right there. I notice a lot for me too, and I tell people this when it comes to nightmares and like scary situations like planes crashing and things like that. That emotion of fear and like panic can be used as a trigger for lucidity, because you're like, oh, I never get this horrified in waking life. So, it just kind of clicks like, oh, it's a dream. Like I never am in these crazy situations. So that happens to me a lot too. Are you usually lucid right away in dreams in general, or is it something like that, or like a weird dream sign that triggers you in the middle of it to say, oh, this is a dream, and then continue on?
I can't say for sure. Maybe half the time when I'm dreaming, within a very short period of time, I know I'm dreaming. Sometimes it takes the plane crashing. Sometimes it takes, just noticing like a window is there and it shouldn't be. Like, okay, that window doesn't belong there. And then I'm okay. That's a reality check. It could take. Nice. It could be very little things, or it could be the plane crashing, or it can be now that I've gotten older. It's people that have passed away. I dream of them all the time, and then that's my trigger. It's like, oh, you're dead.
Yeah, you're not supposed to be here.
Like I try to keep them in the dream just because they're always people that I've known and loved and missed. But sometimes they go away. And I also dream of my pets. I've had pets my whole life. So as soon as I realize, oh, there's a dog I had as, a 4-year-old, that'll be a trigger.
I want to know, like, since you're so good at recognizing these dream signs, which is basically what people try to train themselves to do in order to practice lucid dreaming, I'm curious, like, what is your awareness like in your waking life? Are you mindful and aware all the time? I know you mentioned you do some meditation, but do you feel like your waking life mindfulness kind of carries over?
Oh, extremely. Yes. Very much. I practice stopping and looking in different directions. Even if I'm just like sitting out on the deck and watching a movie, I'll pause, look out at the trees, notice a leaf, notice a squirrel. I live in beauty. I don't know if that makes any difference. I live by the beach most part of the year, and then I live on top of a mountain part of the year. And then, like I said, I spent 30 years in Key West, which is no matter where you turn, there's interesting things around. So I don't know if that has made a difference or not, but I'm always mindfully looking around me and paying attention to life. I think probably to a degree all my life. I was the weird child that, everybody else would just go ahead and do things. And my mother said I was the one that always said why, like, explain everything to me now. Don't tell me to do something without, telling me why I'm doing it, because that won't make sense to me. I went through school getting in trouble for doing homework from a previous class while I'm in a current class. And they would constantly like, Elaine, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just doing homework. They're like, no, you need to pay attention to what is going on in this class. So come up to the chalkboard, write down this math problem that I'm trying to teach you. And I would go up and I'm like, I heard what you were saying. I just happened to be doing my English class at the same time. So I would go up constantly. I get it right. The teachers were just baffled by me. I'm like, look, I can pay attention more so than other kids. So I'm talking like, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade. I could focus more, I think, than most kids.
Yeah, that's a huge factor of, I think, why you're so lucid. And there's a lucidity technique, basically, is that it's called all day awareness. And the more mindful you are, the more lucid awareness you have. I mean, lucidity in our waking life is being aware. And the omnis that I've talked to, people that are lucid in almost 100% of their dreams, they also say that, which is like, I am aware constantly throughout the day of everything happening, 20 things at once, which is hard to do, Like I could be mindfully aware, but I can focus on maybe small things at a time, but something that takes so much effort, like doing your homework and being in the class at the same time, that's really impressive, honestly.
I have 10 brothers and sisters, different sets of parents, and all within a very close age group. And my parents were like, why don't you have homework? And like, I would come home and all the other kids would have out a couple hours a day of homework. I'm like, oh, I did that at school. That's what school's for. But I had straight A's, never got anything less than an A. But with all these kids, I'm the only one without homework. I'm the only one getting straight A's. And they kind of just let me alone. They're like, okay. Most of my life, I worked for 2 jobs simultaneously. I ran a real estate company and I worked for a chain of radio stations full time. And I would have 2 computers at my desk, one for radio and one for real estate. And I had to kind of keep them separate. That's why I had 2 computers, even though I didn't have to do that. To me, that was like, okay, keeps me focused more on each one. People are like, how do you do that? How do you, and I left the radio stations. They're like, okay, we want you to do all these reports, all your accounts, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's in my head. No, we really want all the details, like of all, your 100 and some accounts. I'm like, it's all in my head. I don't know how to give it to you.
That's a superpower.
It's crowded in there.
How do you calm yourself down? I know you mentioned brown noise helps with the dreams, but do you still like meditate, or what helps you ease it out,
In 2020 is when I moved temporarily to the mountains from the islands. And it was at that time I started having a lot of eye problems. And the main thing, looking at a computer screen was and is still very painful. So I've been through experimental treatments on my eyes to get them better. So I kind of was forced into a semi-retirement, and I can use a computer screen, but maybe only like 5 minutes. And then I have to take a break for like 20 minutes. Try to work without a computer is difficult. I do sleep more, unfortunately. It's a blessing and a curse, because kind of now I'm like, oh, okay, I can sleep more so I can dream more, especially when they told me I was going blind last April. I freaked out a little bit. I started noticing, well, my dream, how's my vision? I'm like, oh, okay, I can see perfectly. I'm like, well, that's a blessing. If I do go completely blind, at least I'll be able to see in my dreams. But my vision is getting better, so...
Well, that's good to hear. I know it might sound silly, but in your lucid dreams, give yourself some healing energy towards your eyes.
I actually did that with my back. I have sciatica. And somebody suggested that I guess it was a week or so ago, I kind of got upset with them. They're like, well, if you have an eye problem, you should be able to fix it. That kind of made me mad because if you knew the type of pain and the pain of the treatments, the experimental treatments, and, I've been to the eye doctor since April 9 times, and I'm getting ready to go back again, and they poke and prod and surgery and this and that. It's like, oh, trust me, if I could fix this in a dream, I would. But my sciatica has been really bad. Let me see if I can at least fix my back. And I would say I'm probably 80% better within a week. Literally, I don't know what happened to my back. It doesn't hurt anymore.
That's really interesting, and not at all to undermine the pain of what you're going through, because, these things are very real.
I am so going to try to fix my eyes. Fixing my back just happened like in the past 10 days. So I don't know what I did.
Have you been doing other therapy or anything on it?
No, I stopped I would have to wear like a back brace around my back. I was putting heat patches. I have a heating pad when I'm on the couch, all these things for sciatica. I just gave them all up and just said, I'm just going to see if this works. And I'm going to dream I don't have any pain in my back. And it took me a couple of days to realize I wasn't in pain. I was like, I can bend down and look underneath the couch for my dog's ball without crying. I'm like, that's something weird's going on. My back, I'm not even doing anything. It doesn't hurt anymore.
Wow. And what were you doing in the dream?
I would just set intention before I would go to sleep. I would just be like, oh, let me dream the back pain away. I didn't really do anything but that. Wow. And I stopped babying it, with the wraps and the heat and the stretches and the, all the things the doctors are telling me to do. I just kind of tossed it all and said, let me see if I can heal myself with this. My eyes might take a little more time, a little more work.
You know what? I know that it sounds crazy, but I believe that it's possible. People say all the time that we have the power to heal ourselves.
It works so far.
That's cool.
It's kind of a miracle to me.
Do you usually feel tired after doing so much conscious work in your dreams, or do you wake up refreshed?
I would say it's changed over the decades. Obviously, it was different in my 20s, and then the 30s, I was married. It was different. I pretty much woke up refreshed then. The 40s, I heard that Einstein took 20-minute naps. In my 40s was definitely when I was working 2 full-time jobs. But I just you know what? Let me experiment with a nap in the afternoon. So every afternoon I would stop and I would get undressed, get under the covers, not lay on the couch, go to bed in my bed. And I would sleep. I would go to sleep within minutes, and I would sleep for 20 minutes to 25 minutes exactly and wake up. And I would lucid dream. I'm like, okay, this is getting weird because they say it takes 90 minutes to go into REM sleep and all of this. And I'm like, no, I was doing that almost every single day. I would be lucid within that 20 minutes. I would have a very interesting dream, wake up, go back to work. I kind of switched around my dream time or dream habits and sleeping habits throughout the years. So I don't know which is better or which is worse. It's just, what I've been doing. 40s and 50s were real interesting. 60s now I think I lucid dream differently now that I'm older. Or maybe I'm just so used to it.
I'm actually quite interested in the idea of how dreams change and evolve with our life as we age. And I'm almost 30. And even in those years, I've been lucid dreaming since I was 8. And I've noticed how my dreams evolve in vividness, lucidity. It goes up and down, phases, which makes sense. We change and grow and we're ever evolving.
Sex dreams don't happen as often. I think my lucidity dreams are shorter. They don't last for hours at a time. I'm trying to think, okay, last night I knew you were going to call. I'm like, okay, I want to remember my dream. I set the intention, and then I couldn't shut my brain off. So I laid there for half an hour going, okay, I just activated my brain right before going to sleep. So I turned on the brown noise, slept through the night, woke up, and I'm like, but I still remembered I wanted to remember. I'm like, oh, I don't remember dreaming. That's one thing is once you wake up, if you want to remember, do not move a muscle. Do not open your eyes. Don't cough. Don't try not to move a muscle, and you'll remember something. So I remembered I was filing. I'm like, okay, filing. Like, who even does that anymore? And I just laid there. I'm like, okay, I remember having something that was kind of like an album, like a record album. And I was pushing down to see its buoyancy. Okay, this is weird. Filing, buoyancy. I was checking the weight. I was trying to file my dreams. I finally went back enough into my dream after peeling layers back. I'm like, I was trying to file my dreams because that's what I set my intentions for, was to remember my dream. Even though I knew I was turning the brown noise on, I'm like, I still want to see if I remember. And I did. And it was like, it all came back to me. I was filing what I considered my dreams into this box of water. I know that doesn't make sense. I woke up after I went back and peeled the layers back off of this dream. I really couldn't remember. I then got up and I'm like, hey, that was interesting because I really wanted to sleep, but I did dream. It took me longer to remember. So then I went back to bed and then I went completely lucid.
Things maybe don't make sense when you're talking about the dream, but in the dream, it makes perfect sense. And like all these random components just kind of have logic to them. And that's a funny thing about dreams that I love. It's almost like I was reading a book that was kind of explaining how, you know, we go on all these wild adventures in our dreams and travel and all of that. And things happen interdimensionally that are not easy to explain in like human 3D reality terms. So our brain finds ways of translating it, you know, like a different language, translating it into symbols and plot lines that we can interpret and remember and understand when we wake up as a dream. So I've kind of always thought about it that way. Like my brain is just trying to make sense of all the things that my soul is doing in the dream world. And this is the story that it came up with to translate to me.
And it's interesting because if you sit with something like that long enough, it can make sense. That takes patience, don't you think?
Definitely. And I think that's why a lot of people, you know, they're rushed. They get up, their alarm goes off, they jump up, they get out of bed. I don't use an alarm anymore because I'm dedicated to remembering my dreams. I wake up naturally and my body just knows when to wake up and I stay still, you know. And this is scientifically proven, exactly what you said. Our brain associates the body position with memory. So if you stay in the position without even doing anything, and I don't even write my dreams down, I use a voice activated recorder. So I don't even have to move. I just start saying words and I'm half asleep and then I remember it. Or I don't even do that. Sometimes I just wait and try to think it as much as I can until I have it in my brain enough to record it.
Yeah, I think the recorder would interrupt my recall. I don't know. Because to me, I do it on my phone once in a while, but I have to reach for my phone. I have to, look at the, anyway, that was just like too much. I would lose half the dream.
Yeah, everyone has different methods. And it's good. Like if you can just think about it, and sometimes I'll just wait till I can think about it enough to where I'll remember. But what I use is a voice activated recorder. So I'll turn it on before I go to sleep, and then it just picks up snoring and talking. I don't even have to move. I know that I turned it on and I get used to it. So I know that if I just start saying words while I'm with my eyes closed and sleeping, I'll still wait till I have enough words to form, because sometimes even getting the energy to talk, it's very confusing. Like I don't know if I'm dreaming or if I'm talking out loud or not. It can be kind of confusing. So I kind of wait till I have enough of the memory. Then I start talking, and I try not to talk too much so I don't wake up too much, but it can be really helpful because then by the time I get up and turn my phone on, if I forgot in the dream, I go back and listen to the recording and then I remember everything.
I have to get one of those because when I was married, my husband did say I talked in my sleep all the time.
It's called Sleep Recorder. They have a free version, but I paid like $20 for the lifetime version. It's worth it because then it doesn't cut off how much you can record.
Did you walk in your sleep as a child?
No, I don't think so. I would have very vivid dreams, but I never acted them out.
Yeah, I was sleepwalking all the time as a child. It was like every morning, wake up, where's Elaine? Let's like find Waldo.
How do you know you're not going to hurt yourself or like run outside?
You don't. It's terrible. Especially if you imagine a parent, here's your 5-year-old standing behind the bathroom door, asleep with their eyes open.
Freaked out. So do you have kids yourself?
I have 2 stepchildren and 2 granddaughters.
Do you ever talk to them about dreams and notice anything about their dreams?
I've learned to keep my mouth shut about it because too many people think it's crazy. I'll ask them if they remember their dreams, stuff like that. But I don't go. My husband was the only one I really went into detail with.
I'm glad you're finding people that love dreams and you can talk to us about it.
I am too. I really started researching it because I wanted to write a book, but then my eyes got so bad. And I think I told you this. When I started researching, I was overwhelmed I'm like, oh, wow, like people are really talking about lucid dreaming everywhere. And I had no idea. Like I literally thought nobody wants to even talk about this.
Definitely getting more popular now.
Interesting. I wonder why.
I think part of it is as a community, as like a society, we're all kind of awakening to be more mindful and aware, and spiritually just kind of waking up, so to speak. And at the same time, research is developing. We know more about meditation. We're starting to question consciousness. And I think that kind of affects the masses. So with that type of awakening and awareness comes more lucid dreaming. And the more people that experience it, the more people that are like, oh my God, we need to talk about this. And then, they form groups and communities and people start making content. And then the internet, of course. I mean, it's way easier to talk about things when you can search up other people. I think the internet played a huge role.
Yeah, absolutely.
Part of evolution almost, really. I don't know if anyone even makes it to the end of a podcast episode, but I'm glad that you did. Feel free to check out my website for a lot of cool free resources like the ultimate list of things to do in a lucid dream, a list of books and movie recommendations, research articles, and a lot of awesome things on my blog. Other than that, good night and sweet dreams.